تضيق خلقك. الحمد لله ما حد بياخذ منك رزقك. هدي وارتاح ثابر واطمح من حقك، بس بلاش العين. لا 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 ما تسوى الدنيا تضيق خلقك. الحمد لله ما حد بياخذ منك رزقك. هدي وارتاح ثابر واطمح من حقك، بس بلاش العين.
Thank you, Shay. I begin with a prayer in the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, all protocol observed. It is both an honor and a privilege to introduce my colleague, my sister, my friend, and our very own Deputy Minister, Fatima Chauhan. The now Honorable Fatima Chauhan is originally from Rudaport. Her family moved to Laudium, where she did her schooling. She matriculated from the Laudium Secondary School, and thereafter they relocated to Azadville. Prior to being appointed as the Member of Parliament, Deputy Minister Chauhan held the following positions. She was a legal advisor in the Office of the Premier in Gauteng, a legal advisor in Gauteng Legislature, and a deputy head of Metro Legal Services in the Greater Johannesburg. The Deputy Minister Chauhan served as an alternative representative of the Transvaal Indian Congress at CODESA, and was part of the provincial task team responsible for inducting the first batch of newly elected ANC councillors in the early 1990s. Her activism began while she was a student at WITS. The Deputy Minister was elected as the Executive Committee of the Muslim Students Association and also a member of the Black Student Society. Soon after she obtained her B.Proc from the University of Wits, the Deputy Minister was admitted to the side bar in 1998. The Honorable Fatima Chauhan, who comes from our local community, was elected as Member of Parliament since 1996. You know, when I recall when she walked into Parliament for the first time, I was overjoyed because I knew she came from my locality. She was always a very astute and hardworking, committed cadre of the ANC. As a Member of Parliament, she chaired various ad hoc committees and portfolio committees on justice and constitutional development, public enterprises, and basic education in the National Assembly. On the 1st of November 2010, she was appointed by the President Jacob Zuma as the Deputy Minister of Home Affairs. And we, as the Laudium Women's Network and the forum artistic forum that is put the book together, I Am What I Am, has the privilege of listening to our most honorable Deputy Minister, Fatima Chauhan. Minister.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon to everybody. I'm aware it's very hot in the sun, so I'm not going to speak too long. I think the introduction was going to be longer than my speech. But firstly, let me just say that I'm really honored to be here today amongst friends and people I consider part of my family. There's so many women here who have been so very important to me in my life, in my growth. Auntie Sophie is with us. Madame Maniben Sita is with us. Maniben was somebody who grew up in Laudium, admiring from afar, because very often she was under house arrest and banning orders, so we couldn't go and interact. But we always knew that she stood out as somebody who opposed apartheid, very often by herself. And I always had this picture of her being alone in her house, and the security forces of the day constantly surveying her premises to find out who comes in and who comes out. When they told me to speak today, they didn't tell me much, to be honest. Juleka phoned me and said, how are you, and will you come to this event that we're hosting? And I said, yeah, and then for the next 2 hours we spoke about things that friends speak about. So I didn't quite get the memo. But I thought I would come and speak today, being September, being the month of arts, culture, and heritage. straight after the month of women. And I don't think that there is any coincidence with August following September, because I just think that we are so linked. Women, art, beauty, love. Those are the things that we celebrate during these 2 months. And being here reminds me that we grew up in a very unnatural place. And as women particularly, I think that it's important for us to think about how we ourselves have been groomed and what our contribution is towards nation building. Being a woman is really being a creator. We give life. We are nurturers, we are gardeners, we are builders. That's what we do. We thrive under love's glow. And beauty is our natural state. Harmony is what we love. It's not in our nature to be destructive. It's not in our nature to be negative. Being a woman is very akin to religion because we are very close to our Creator as fellow creators. We are part of the divine mechanism of creation itself. We are instruments through which life perpetuates itself. This is our power and our place in the universe. The strictures of the modern world and the advent of the Industrial Revolution and evolution of the modern nuclear family, and even religion as interpreted by men, have served to estrange us from our essence and our true power. Added to this toxic mix is the poisonous alchemy of the world that many of us in my generation grew up in during apartheid. And that created a very unnatural society because the women were very unnatural. Lucretia Mott, one of the great suffragettes, said, "The world has never seen a truly great nation because in the degradation of women, the very fountains of life are poisoned at their source." And perhaps we should pause a moment to find out and think about what are the degradations of women in our society. Very often, it begins with our status as lesser human beings. We are socialized in our diverse communities to understand that there is a rank. Whether one has been exposed to a Calvinist upbringing, as many of our fellow compatriots have been, or whether a traditional African upbringing, or whether you're a girl child of Muslim parents or Hindu ones, sustained subtleties we are taught at a very young age, that our brothers have a special status in the family, in the community, and in creation itself. We are all called mankind, which is synonymous with our very species. Men are the complete and best representation of our kind. This is, generally speaking, no different to the experience of the girl child throughout the world. In China, there is currently an oversupply of young men due to the one-child policy adopted by that nation about a decade and a half ago to curb the population rate. And the reason for this is every time there was a female baby pregnancy, very often there was a termination of that pregnancy. Our peculiar and violent history of colonialism and apartheid served to further cement the degradation of our sex. Violence underpinned a norm that reached its zenith in the 70s and 80s when we grew up. Domestic abuse and substance abuse were as much a feature of the townships as they were behind closed doors in the leafy white residential areas. Ray Alexander, the famous unionist, once said of the apartheid society, "The women have become men, and the men have become animals." We are nurturers. What is therefore our place in this day and age in the rebuilding scheme? As nurturers, we have a vested interest in the political development of our country and our community and our nation. And it was with this realization that the many women in our country at the height of our struggle for liberation opted for resistance. In the 1956 march to the Union buildings, the hard power of the state came face to face with the soft power of our sex, which displayed its natural grace, its eloquence and strength in the words, "You strike a woman, you strike a rock." Many of us woke up at dawn on the 27th of April 1994 with renewed hope for our nation, for our people. We celebrated our freedom and went to stand in queues that snaked the length and breadth of our beautiful country. And we stood proud. No longer would we be second class. The victims of apartheid forgave the oppressors, and life was going to be better for all. As we stood there waiting to vote on that glorious day, we forgot that just a few weeks before, bombs were going off in the heart of Johannesburg. We restrained ourselves in the aftermath of Boipatong and when the blood of our people seeped into the killing fields in KZN. Later on, we watched the TRC with tears flowing freely for the victims and vaguely wondered why the absent perpetrators did not embrace their opportunity to be cleansed of their sins. Where were they, we wondered? Why didn't they come forward? Where did they go? Did they own that new dawn together with the millions of South Africans who were queuing in those wonderful queues? Or did they regard that dawn as their darkest hour?
لا 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 ما تسوى الدنيا تضيق خلقك الحمد لله تافر وضح من حقك بس
We wondered silently whether they were among the multitude waving the orange, white and blue when Madiba walked into the rugby field with the box when they won their very first World Cup at Ellis Park. Recently, we've had the rehearing of the inquest into the death of Emmett Timor. And this has revealed many things about our transition to freedom. And one thing is clear, that the foot soldiers of apartheid are very much amongst us. They have transitioned with us into the era of freedom, but don't need the forgiveness that was given by the victims of apartheid. One of the former members of the security branch who was subpoenaed to the inquest would not have been found were it not for his daughter, who called the Timor family and gave her father up. And one would have asked, why would a daughter do that to a father? The answer lies again in the unspeakable degradation of our sex. Her father had been abusing her all of these years. We are, ladies and gentlemen, a nation of ravaged souls in need of healing. Too many of us are emotional cripples. Too many have suffered unspeakable degradations. Our hope lies in the healing power of our sex. As women of this nation, we have each of us borne the degradations which served us no end to alienate us from our true nature as nurturers and nation builders. The time is now for us to firstly look deeply into ourselves, to heal ourselves from whatever hurts and pains we carry around with us, to forgive those who have hurt us is a very important beginning point. A wise woman once taught me that, well, two things. Firstly, that you can control nothing else but yourself. And secondly, there is no human being that has ever walked this planet that has never felt pain, and that we are all one in pain. Understanding this makes us compassionate, which is another aspect of our natural feminine state. We should teach our daughters, very importantly, to marvel at their feminine power, which is centrally placed at the essence of existence. Whether they are able to bear children or not, all women are endowed with the power to nurture, because we are nature's building force. So much of our problems as women in this country and girls relate back to the lack of this appreciation. It is when the true power of sex, of our sex, is realized in our country, when we become fountains of love, that the healing will begin and we can truly call ourselves a caring nation. I thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. I am really not going to keep you long. I think a lot of what I wanted to say was covered by a lot of others. The book I Am I was the brainchild of Janie Dawood. It's been in the making for approximately 2 years. She envisioned a project which highlights the artistic achievements of women from a previously marginalized group. It is important to remember, historically, women from the Indian community could be considered doubly marginalized. Not only were they non-white, they were expected to be housewives, homemakers, and that's about it. Fortunately, times have changed and women have ventured into the workplace. However, our community seems to have forgotten the rich ancestral heritage that we have. We not only make a mean curry, and I think that's what Indians are known for, but besides our cuisine, we have a rich ancestral heritage in the arts. And it is against this backdrop that we celebrate artists from among our community, a few, just a few. And it's with this that we hope to inspire younger generation, to inspire people to venture into the arts and crafts. And a lot of people who are featured in the book, where art is not their career. It is a sideline, and yet they have excelled in this. And it is an opportunity to celebrate these people. I must say that in the past year and a half that I've been involved, it has been an opportunity to reconnect with people from this amazing community. I sometimes think that over the past few years, we've drifted apart. We've forgotten how close we were. Irrespective of religion, we were one community. We celebrated Eid, we celebrated Diwali, we celebrated Raksha Bandhan. And it was an opportunity for us to reconnect. We are one community. Our ancestral heritage is the same, and it is a rich heritage, and we should be proud of it. We should not make excuses for it. We should not diminish it at all. We have a rich ancestral heritage, and we should celebrate that. And it is with that that we have this book, and hopefully future books to come. Thank you.
The wonder of creation, the wonder of vibration, the wonder of thunder, of skies torn asunder, to give birth to light and life. A command so great for mortal's sake, the whole universe is shaken awake. Only man is sleeping, God in his mercy sends in abundance beauty and sustenance. Is there no one who will partake? The wonder of wonders is still man and his blunders. The angels weep, the chasms deep, yet man in slumberous walking street turns away to take his second fall, Adam's son.
I'd like to now call upon Zakia Mohammed to do a poem.
India, I am burnished copper and gleaming gold, polished ebony, the alabaster of old. My eyes see colors through colors of their own, a myriad of hues, memories, and tones. Espressos, javas, mochas, and lattes, deepest obsidians, envious grays. Ocean glass has nothing on me, rolling sapphires and emeralds of the sea. Just as mysterious, just as deep, just as forbidden as the secrets they keep. I am silken waves of femininity, soft, sacred, severe sensuality. I am comforting breast and caressing arms. I am words and songs of soul-soothing charms. I am dancing feet and soothing lips. I am praying hands and swaying hips. I am a giver of dreams, a spinner of tales, a light in the dark when the nightmare wails, a water-bearing beauty, duties, my lord, a gypsy queen on the side of the road. I am cinnamon and cardamom, peppercorn and clove. I am fiery and passionate. I am all things love. I am all things love. I am all things. I am all. I am woman.
Thank you, Zakia. That was beautiful. I'd like to now call upon Dr. Waida Juma, who's also an artist in the book, but she's going to read a poem on behalf of her sister Miriam. Dr. Waida.
Good afternoon. An overdue love song. On a Sunday afternoon, stillness. I'm breathing, listening to the cackle of children across the garden in the wintered park, rusted swings squeaking under the lightness of their laughter. The loneliness doesn't seem heavy then when the air carries voices of another generation. Loneliness is for the overfull adult on the backs of bakkies, gnarling wind, sweeping through plastic sheeting, their faces blank, black, lonely, looking ahead, piercing eyes in lonely luxury cars behind. Silence, except for the city bustle. Loneliness, except for the piercing of eyes. On a Sunday afternoon in Bree Street, a lady stopped me amidst hooting taxis. I thought she wanted money. What else? Said the loneliness of my soul. Sissy, your duk, pointing to my red hijab, and then to her very same red duk. In that instant, our red duks were not lonely, markers of each other's lives, sewn in China, worn in Africa, on the streets of Joburg, breaking the passage of silence with a red marker, red like the blood of Gaza, or Cape Flats, or Darfur, or Baghdad, or Harare, or Karachi, or London, or Cairo, or New York, or Beijing. Bessie Head says she's an imaginative trespasser. In the year of protest, the only love I have is for truth. To break the silence of loneliness, she says. The world we grew up in no longer can contain us. In it, we are like fish caught in a net, panting for breath. Thank you.
Free at last. Carefree, happy serum surging from our beaten breasts. Milk and honey, one stream. Toy-toying waves of ecstasy in a newborn sea, roaming through the streets of Laudium, Indians and Africans, one race. Madams and maids, one community. Brown and black, locked palms holding, one people. For one fabulous dreamy night, dancing on the crown of coming freedom. A collective celebration as countless segregated worlds collapsed and cemented. One nation. We rode on the crest of exhilaration, prancing through every street to shout our joint jubilation. pausing our public chanting and caper only as the reluctant night began to disperse. The next morning, after the sun awoke from 3 centuries of sleep to deck a Cape skyline, after 27 years in a prison on Robben Island, Nelson Mandela was set free. Thank you.
لا 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 ما تسوى الدنيا تضيق خلقك، الحمد لله ما حد بياخذ منك رزقك، هدي وارتاح ثابر واطمح من حقك، بس بلاش العين. لا 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 ما تسوى الدنيا تضيق خلقك، الحمد لله ما حد بياخذ منك رزقك، هدي وارتاح ثابر واطمح من حقك، بس